All right, everyone, we're at the top of the hour here. Welcome to today's Oracle Apex office hours. Happy St. Patrick's Day, St. Patty's Day, or however you say it. I'm got my nice little hat going on here. It is a top hat. Got the good old Clover stuff going on. I'm very happy and proud to be able to wear it and have fun with it. I will be switching my background, but because it's got a lot of green in it, it does that whole zoom thing where anything that's green kind of gets blacked out. So right now, this is how I look, and this is my background. This is not fake. This is my world, my life, and I'm here to talk about what's happening today. So it is March 17th, and Oracle Apex office hours has begun. So we're going to start with some announcements and some updates. If you had missed any of the previous Apex office hours, you can go to apex.oracle.com/office hours and look at any of the previously recorded sessions. You can watch them and learn a little bit more about some of the things that were presented in the past. And this particular one that was last was vanity URL extensions for Apex and ORDs. Highly recommend you take a look at that if you get a chance. Next on the Oracle Apex office hours is going to be Carianto plugins, no Oracle Apex. And I'm sorry if I butchered that. I'm really not good at other languages. But if you go to apexoracle.com/go/apex-Portuguese, you'll be able to see more there about this particular presentation that's coming up. We'll have our new product manager, Karina, and Monica also on the call with a special guest. We have upcoming conferences around the world. Here you see in Slovenia on April 22nd, we're going to have Apex Alpe Adria. Again, not good with the other pronunciations, so forgive me, please. We got Apex Connect coming up in Germany on May 3rd and 4th. We got the Great Lakes Oracle Conference, which I'll actually be attending and presenting here on May 10th and 12th in the USA. And of course, everyone knows about OD Tug's Kscope, and 22 is going to be live and in person this year, June 19th to 23rd. I'll also be there with some of the other Apex team presenting various topics. And who am I? I mean, I am Jason Haynes. If you haven't heard of me before or seen me on Twitter, I'm all in on Apex. I've been using Apex for the last 15 years, and I'm just very excited to be with you all here today to have some of these presentations from some of our best minds here at Oracle and on the Apex team, showing you some tips and tricks. But in the meantime, be aware that service updates for Apex on Autonomous Database, you can go to apex.oracle.com/go/adb-updates for the latest information for when ADB will be upgraded to the next release of Apex. Right now, it is on schedule currently for the month of March. So sometime this month, that will take place and everybody will be able to use the latest and greatest Apex 21.2. Another announcement here with Oracle Apex 21.2 patch set bundle 5 being available. It was just updated on March 14th. So when this patch is applied to your instance, you'll be updated to 21.2.5. You can download it via My Oracle Support. There is a known issues page. So if you go to apex.oracle.com/known-issues, you'll be able to see some of that information up front before you begin your installation. And today, developer tips from the Apex team number 2. Just so for the people that are joining for the first time, we actually did this back in January. We invited a few members of the Apex dev team to share their top developer tips, and we're doing it again. So in this session, we're going to have the second part inviting other team members so that you can supercharge your productivity. I mean, whether you are new to Apex or an experienced Apex developer, we are sure you will learn something today that will help you be more productive using Apex. We want you to be successful and hope that you enjoy this opportunity to listen to some of our team talk about Apex and some of these tips. You know, Shakib did give me a tip. He said, slow down way back. I think I'm talking a little too fast, so I do apologize, but I want to make sure we have enough time for everybody to speak to their points that they're about to present. So next on that, I welcome Alan Sitterson, Ronnie Rice, and Vincent Morneau. Alan's in the US, Ronnie's in Germany, and Vincent is in Canada. And, you know, that's pretty cool. I'm so happy to be with these people. They're some of the brightest minds that we've been able to welcome to the Oracle family and our Apex development team. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alan, who's going to present some of his tips.
Hello, thanks for joining everybody. My name is Alan Sitterson. I've been with Oracle for 20 years. In June of this year, it'll be 20 years. I've been on the Apex team since version 5 was released, a long time ago. I managed the packaged apps and sample apps. I still kind of do that. If you're wondering why my Twitter handle doesn't match my name, it's because I moonlight as a comedian. I've been doing that for 31 years. Anyways, moving on. I'm here to show you some tricks I know about Apex that are probably good for everyone to know about. I'm going to start by installing a sample data set by clicking on SQL Workshop, Utilities, and then, sample data sets. And I'm going to install the customer orders data set. I'm just doing this to set up a use case scenario. There are other sample data sets that if you don't have in your instance and want like the emp depth sample data set, that's a good one to have because a lot of help online comes from those two tables. All right. Now, at the end of this install of the sample data set, we get the option to create an application. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to create an application from this data set. And let's say the use case scenario is your boss has told you that he's input these customer tables and populated their data, and he wants you to build an app off of that information. If you want, you could just do it this way. Now, as you can see, there are 7 features that you can have pre-installed in your app, but I don't want all 7. So I'm going to uncheck them, and I just want the about page feature and the feedback feature. And I'm going to go ahead and create this application. Oh, interesting. This has not happened before. Oh, maybe, I'm sorry. Do I? Oh, I do. My bad. I'm going to delete this application.
The infamous cool demo, bro.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I had
all
I
good,
forgot
Alan.
to delete it last night. So I'm just going to go back to utilities, sample data sets, and I'm going to update this data set now and say next. And at the end, I'll still have the create application option. So I will do that and hopefully not get a unique constraint violation this time. There we go. Create the application. I'm going to turn off the features, except for the about page and feedback, and then create. There we go. That's more in line with what I was expecting to see. Now I'm going to run this application. And looks good. I should be an administrator because I created the app, and I am. All right. And now my boss has told me that he wants logging done on the people who are using this application. And I know as an Apex developer, that's a feature that I could just add to this app that's already pre-built for me by Apex. So I'm going to click on Create Page, and I'm going to change the page type to Feature. And then I'm going to click on Activity Reporting. And I want this on my administration page. Only administrators can see this. So I just find Administration, click on that, and say Create. And this will add the activity reporting feature to my application. So my boss is happy, and it only took a few clicks. So now I can run my app, and there it is, but it's spanning across both of these. I don't want it spanning, so I'm just gonna come here and I'm gonna drag this region up. Oops, drag it up and put it right below this region. And save it, run the page, much better. And now I can see who the top users are. Turns out it's me and nobody. But as more and more end users start using this app, there'll be more and more data in here. All right, now I want to ensure that I got my about page and my feedback, and that it works. So here's my feedback. And I'm just going to say, nice app. All right, looks like that went through. And this looks to be, here's my about page. And I need to replace this text with more information about this app, but that shouldn't be hard to do. I'm going to close this navigation. Actually, let's go check to make sure I got that feedback. Yep, nice app. All right, perfect. Now, let's check out this orders page. As you can see, the customer column here in this report is just giving the ID. And if you want to change that to be the name of the customer, it's really easy to do. You just quick edit this region, you go to that column and you just change it from a number field to a select list. And then you use a shared component that was created when the app was created called customer's full name. And now if you save and run, now you're getting their name. And it even changed the orientation of the header and the data by doing that. And same with store. If you wanted to change that to be the actual store name, you just go here and change it to select field. And you say shared component and stores, store name, save, run. All of this out of the box. And there you go. That looks beautiful. And as you notice down here, this interactive grid changes when you click on an order up here. This is telling you more information about the order. Now, if you want to change the product on this one to be the product name, you'll notice that there was no, if you try to say select list and go to shared components, there was no list of values created for this. And let's say you're a beginner on the team and you come to this page and you don't know how to make that LOV. You're just starting with Apex and you don't like the fact that product ID is just a number, and you just, unbeknownst to everybody, you decide to delete that region and you save the page. And now somebody else on the team, like 5 minutes later, realizes, hey, what happened to that details region that was at the bottom? Oh yeah, I deleted that a couple minutes ago because I couldn't figure out how to change product ID. Oh no, why did you do that? That's not good. We need to put that back. Now, what you can do is you can export this page as of, let's say, 3 minutes ago. And now you can go back to the app and you can import that file. And as you can see, we got our region back. And if we run it, but we went too far back and lost our LOV changes. Those are easily made. But let's say that newbie developer really messed up and deleted the whole page. And then he comes running to you and says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I deleted the whole orders page. And now you get this error, and I didn't change the lists to remove it. And I didn't even want that. I didn't mean to delete it. I'm so sorry. Just say, no problem, no problem. You come back into the app, you create a dummy page for. Give it, it doesn't even matter. Just call it dummy. And then just go through the wizard. And then you export this page as of maybe 3 minutes ago. Yeah, that's fine. Then you re-import this page, it'll write over your dummy page and putting the whole page back. There we go. Oh, and we got it back in between the time where I changed. So this is great. We got it back with my other changes. Now all we have to do is change this LOV or create an LOV for product. All right, so I just wanted to demo those quick things real quick. And the last part is I'd like to show, before I release this application to the public, I need to run the advisor. There's this tool. Oh, also as part of the backups, I'm sorry, there's this change history. I'm sorry, manage backups right here. As I make changes to my app at night, Apex will back up that app and there'll be a copy put here. If you go 3 days without making any changes, then there's only one entry. But if on the 4th day, somebody else makes some changes in the app, on the 5th day, there'll be another entry here. So this, you can restore from these backups as well. Also, this whole flashback functionality inside of Apex relies on the flashback query technology introduced in Oracle 9i. And it's limited to the data that's in the undo table space. So you should only expect there to be 5 to 15 minutes of undo data available. So when these kind of things happen, act quickly. Now, as I was saying, I want to show this tool, the advisor. This tool will check your app for problems. It'll run all these checks. Well, everyone that's, I'm just going to say select all. And then it will report any errors, or sometimes these things that it reports aren't valid things that need to be looked at, but a lot of the security issues should definitely be looked at. And maybe like if this page is not protected by an authorization scheme, well, this is the home page. It should be protected by at least the bare minimum of user is not a public, it must not be a public user. They should log in to get to this page. It's behind Apex authentication. So that should be set. Now, when I go back to the advisor, there it is. I go to the next page and I got to scroll all the way back down to security again. I don't want to do that. I just want to, if I'm going to go through all these and fix them, I want to pin the security section to the right. So now I can just say must not be public user and then save the page and then go back here. And when I do the next one on page 3, I'm already there. And I just have to do this and save. And my advice is to just go through everything in the advisor and make sure it's not a red herring. Like there are some options in here that are definitely red herrings. If you come down through here, this one is just saying you're missing an order by, and these, all of these should be looked at, but I think, is it, there's one in here that has to do with escaping. No, oops. Okay, yeah, items should have, this is on the feedback page. It's saying you should have this page item escaped when it displays. So if you take their advice and you say, okay, I'm gonna unpin security and I'm going to go, let's see, to escaping, which is down at the bottom here, escape special characters. If I turn that on and follow what advisor is telling me to do, and then I run my app, sorry, I hit reload here. That's on page 10,010, which is this page. And you go, oh, I broke it. I can't have escaping on for that. So some of these results that are being told to you an advisor, you shouldn't just arbitrarily, do it and think, okay, I met advisor's recommendation, so everything's good. Double check your work and make sure that you don't break stuff by following what advisor is telling you to do. And with that, that is the end of my demo. Thanks for listening.
Thanks a lot, Alan. That was awesome. It's always good to see some of these nuances to some of the functionality. I've used Advisor quite often over the years. As Alan has said, you might want to take a good close look at what it's suggesting, not follow it as a golden standard or anything. Just make sure that you haven't broken your app by taking all of its advice. So what I failed to do before Alan started was to tell you what he was going to talk about, kind of rushed past that a bit quick. So now on to our next speaker. Go ahead and click on that slide there. We got Ronnie coming to present the diversity of Apex data export. Apex String can not only split and get your session into IDE with Apex Session. So this looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. Ronnie, you ready?
Yep.
All right. So let me go ahead and stop sharing. Oh, pardon me. Where'd that go? All those Zoom controls. Here we go. Stop.
Yeah, welcome everybody also from my side. Yeah, I'm fairly new to the Apex team. I joined the Apex team in September last year. And yeah, my main tasks was fixing bugs. As a newbie, it's normal fixing bugs. And for me, it's every time normal fixing bugs. And yeah, I supported different team members for new features in 21.2, 21.1, so 22.1, sorry. Version mismatch. And yeah, I don't want to show you something from the wizard or from the app builder today. I picked up some APIs because Apex is not only a cool low-code framework, it's also a good framework for building really good professional apps, and therefore you can use the APIs that Apex provides to do sometimes complicated things quite easy. And the first thing I want to show you is Apex Data Export. And I know you heard a lot of Apex Data Export in the last month because it's a pretty cool feature, it's new and so on. And yeah, what's the normal use case for Apex Data Export? You can produce Excel files, HTML files, PDF files, and so on. And that's what I do now. When I press on that button, I can download an Excel file with some dummy data. Yeah, this is not really complicated. When we take a look at the code, then that's everything you need to do. You need to have a query that gets your data. Then you call the API from Apex Exit to get the query context. Then you just call Apex Export to create the exported file. And then you just download the export. That's everything you need to do. But when we think about this, then my first thought is, for what can I, or what are use cases that I can do with Apex Data Export that are not the normal use cases? And when we think about images or videos and so on, then we have some built-in features in Apex. We can use, for example, an interactive report. I need to do that to the side here. Then you can have a table with some binary files, images and scripts, videos, and so on. And with some declarative features, you can add here a column for download, so you can download the image. And you can also have a preview of all the images. And that's not really complicated. We can take a look into it. We have here our select statement. And then we have, for example, the column that shows us the image. And we just choose as type this display image type. Then we add some attributes for our blob here. and then the images are shown correctly in the interactive report. But when we think about, we want to do more with file downloads or file interactions in Apex. For example, we want to have a cool preview for our images and so on. Then we could also use a list template, for example, in the classic report. And that is what I'm doing here. And what you see here is not really complicated. It's quite easy done in Apex. And yeah, I can click on the images and then a preview is opened. And I can also download here the images to my PC. And when I have a file that cannot be previewed, then directly a download is triggered. And yeah, the file is downloaded. And it's pretty easy with Apex Data Export to do these things. Let's take a look into the code. As you can see here, that is everything we need to do to trigger a download with Apex Data Export. And Apex Data Export doesn't care about if it's a PDF or a video or an image. You can use it for every binary file. And that's all I have to do. I select my files. This is just a dummy. I have written a procedure where I have an input parameter with the file ident. And then I just trigger Apex Data Export. And this code I add easily on the page. In my case, it's added as an AJAX process, as an AJAX callback. You do not see the code here because I stored my code into a package, but you can be sure it's this code or nearly this code. And then I have my images download. But how do I add this to my report? That's also quite easy. We have here this report. It's a classic report, and as template, I use the media list. That's what I set here, and then I have here my select statement. I know it looks a little bit more complicated, but it is not really complicated. And in my select statement, it just selects the table where the binary is stored. And in that statement, I create some links. I have here a case, and I say, okay, when the image type is not from MIME type images, then please trigger a directly download. And the link to my AJAX process where the file is downloaded is just produced with Apex page get URL. This is also an API. And when that's not a previewable image or a script file or so on, then when it's an image, then I link just to my model dialog and open the preview for the image. And that's all built with Apex stuff. It's not really a lot of code. And then the result, as you can see, is here. Yeah. Let's jump to the next API. Most of you will know this API because we use it for years with the split function. Because, for example, when we want to filter a report with a multi-selection item, we need to use this function in the where condition. But Apex String, and I include also Apex String util, can do a lot more. I have here a text area with some text. And yeah, the easiest thing I can do with Apex String is to split that by white spaces. And this is a classic report. And this is my statement in the classic report. So I select the value of the item and split it by the white space. And these are my results. And so I have every word from the text area here in my report. But in the last years, there are much more APIs introduced in this Apex String API, like something like this, find email addresses. So here I have just used Apex String util find email addresses, and I get a table with all the email addresses from my text area. There's also a function for find links. Then I get all the links that are inside of this text area. I can also find tags. This is pretty helpful in the when you use the rich text field, for example. Then there is a plugin directly shipped that supports these hashtags. So the good thing is when you need to think this is a rich text field. When I press, for example, this key, then I can add here some hashtags. And the good thing is with Apex string find these hashtags, you can easily get these results and replace them with the correct values. You see here in the code that we can choose the tag that we want to use. When you think on Twitter, when you mention one guy, then you have this @ and for normal hashtags, you have this hash sign. And if you want to do more complicated things than the things that are directly shipped with Apex, then you have Apex string grab. And this is a really, really mindful function because you can search in your tags with a regular expression. And in my case, I added here a regular expression to find everything that starts with a number. And as you can see, we have these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can also add a 5. And as you can see, the function found that. And this could be really helpful when you search through a text, because you can do a lot of things with regular expressions. But for the beginners of you, there are many functionality directly added in this string util. So maybe you just want to search for hashtags or email addresses, then it's enough for you. Yeah, and the last one I want to show you is Apex session. Let me tell you a use case. You have some page items on Apex, and you have a report that uses these page items. Then you have a problem because when you want to debug that in your IDE, Visual Studio Code or SQL Plus or a SQL developer, then you need to attach to this session. And Apex gives you an API for that. So let's start directly. I set here build with Apex in this text field, and I set here the red color to the color picker and set the session state to these items. And now I can get these values in my SQL developer. I just need to attach onto the session, and everything I need for this is the app ID, the page ID, and the session ID. And then I can get the values of this session. So here I have my build with Apex and the color. It has a limitation because when I change this text here, for example, to Ronnie and submit that and go again with my select from dual, then this is not changed. So I need to reattach to the session, and then I get the change here. But the good thing is I can now execute statements from inner Apex in my IDE with the values of the items. And that is really, really helpful for debugging. I need to stop now because my 50 minutes are over, and I said Jason said I present 3 APIs. I know there are so much more APIs that I would like to present, and I have some more preparated for you, but I have not the time to show you everything. The last thing I want to show you is just the shortcut to the APIs, because these 2 bookmarks you always need to remember when you want to check out what APIs does exist. So when you want to quickly look into a specific API, then these shortcuts are really helpful for that. Yeah, so thank you from my side. I hope that we can share this sample app for you so that you can check all my code samples and maybe check also my examples for Apex debug and Apex util set preference. And yeah, that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. It's really cool. We have one question that we'd like to have you answer before you stop sharing.
Yeah.
What kind of region is the one you were showing your code in?
Okay. I know this question will come. It's a plugin from me. It's the Monaco code editor, so that I can edit and show code or diffs between two codes in Apex. Yeah, but there's an option that is built in Apex. I do not remember the name at the moment. But when you add a pre-tag in an HTML, let me show it to you. When you add here a pre-tag, and you also add code, then you can also show your code here in Apex. But yeah, I used my plugin for that because it makes me much more easier to show you quickly this code. So I don't have to switch to the SQL developer.
No, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, that
Yep.
find tags hash, some of those APIs, have they always been there? And I've just never seen them before because I can't wait to use them. Like even that grep. That grep is so cool. I'm like looking at this as you do. It's like, I can't wait to try that in my own apps. Very
Yep.
cool. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Is your plugin available?
Yeah, all my plugins are available for free under MIT license on apex.world, where all the good plugins are found. But I have to say they have nothing to do with Oracle, so don't try to get support for them. These are all things from my spare time and yeah, built before my Oracle time.
Very cool. All right, so moving on to our next presenter, we have Vincent. Vincent's got a bunch to talk about. Some VS Code compiling, PL SQL, understanding multi-cursors, understanding AJAX, keyboard shortcuts or adding them, and stimulating iOS devices. It's a fun thing with Vincent and I. We've met a few times at a few conferences in the past, and he's a Mac guy. I'm a Windows guy. So it's kind of always fun listening to Vincent talk about all the features of Mac stuff, and us Windows guys are kind of like left behind trying to figure out what he's really referring to. This whole command this and command that for some of us is just, you know, not that familiar. But with that said, Vincent, welcome. Let's see what you have to show us.
Thank you, Jason. I think you'll learn a few things, even if you're on Windows, you'll see.
I'm always learning.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Vincent. I'm a developer on the team, Apex team. I've been here for just a little over a year. And just like Ronnie, I've been involved in a fair amount of bug fixes, but also I've been lucky enough to be working on a feature in Apex 21.2, which was also a passion of mine, the introduction of PWA in Apex. That's not what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to jump into 5 tips that I think I can squeeze into a little nice demo. So let me share my screen. So there's a lot of tips here I want to share, 5 of them. And I thought the best way of doing that is by creating a little small application that would allow me to demonstrate all of those 5 tips in a unified way. So I just want to talk about the app that I'm going to build now, which is basically a single page app here that tells you you've won a free trip somewhere. So it's totally not a spam or scam application, but this allows you to tap on the I'm feeling lucky button here. And this would basically find a random location on the world, and then you would be able to book your trip to that location. So that's the purpose, that's a goal of my application. And just a quick note on what I need to be able to create that application is I installed the country's sample data set. So I'm going to be using that data set to pull the information from the database. So the goals of this application is to basically find a random location using AJAX. So as I'm clicking on I'm feeling lucky, I want to pull a random location from the database using AJAX. Then I'm going to set the page items on this page using the AJAX result. And lastly, I'm going to add a keyboard shortcut on that application to automate this process. So instead of clicking, I'm feeling lucky, I'll be able to tap on a keyboard shortcut and that'll do it for me. So that is the purpose of my application. Now, a good practice that we usually encourage in Apex is to take as much business logic out of the application as possible. So as I'm going to work on the data and create some select statements, I thought I should actually be starting from a package. So let's go ahead and create a very basic package. So I'm going to VS Code right now, and I've got this shell of a package called Office Hours Demo. And the first tip that I want to show you is that it's very convenient and very easy to compile code from VS Code. So for this, you can go to the extensions tab of VS Code and just go tap Oracle. And there's an official Oracle Developer Tools extension for VS Code that will allow you to get IntelliSense, but also the ability to compile directly to the database. So going back to my little package right here, I'm going to press Control-C for connect. And throughout this demo, you're going to see that I enabled my keyboard shortcuts to display on the screen. So you'll be able to follow me as I'm doing those tricks. So let's connect to my database right here, Apex 21.2 vMorno. And now I am connected. So I can run and execute this package with Control-R. So from VS Code, I've compiled this package. It was very fast. And now I'm good. So and let's actually add the procedure here. So save again and run. So package is compiled. Now I'm going to go back to my application because I want to tie in the logic from this button to my new package. And the way I'm going to do that is by creating an AJAX process. So instead of a regular dynamic action, what I'm going to do is create an AJAX callback in the process side here. And this process is going to be called, it's going to be called random place. And from here, I'll be calling office hours demo.random place. Let's just make sure this compiles correctly. It does. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to be using this AJAX callback later on. Now, so let's move to our button, and we want our feeling lucky button to execute this code. So I've prepared a dynamic action here, which triggers a JavaScript code. So from here, again, to follow good practices and to keep the code as light as possible, I'm going to simply invoke a function instead of adding the code directly in the dynamic action. So the function could be called feeling lucky. And then where would we be coding that function? Well, for now, for simplicity purposes, I'll be coding it at the page properties level. So here's the shell of my JavaScript function, which is invoked with the button. And what we really want to do here is invoke our AJAX process, which we just created. So how we can do this is, and this is one of my tips, is I think it's really important to understand the mechanics of AJAX in Apex, because it really explains a lot of the flow of the code between the client and the server. And behind the scenes, that is also what dynamic actions are doing. So to invoke an AJAX process, what we could be doing is declare a variable and then call apex.server dot process. And then this process is the name of our Ajax process, which is random place. And this Ajax process, we want to await it. We want to await the result of our process. Okay. And just to see if it works, let's do a console log of the result. Okay. But right now, nothing's actually in our package body. So I haven't gotten around to code the body of that package. So let's move back to VS Code, and we're going to do the body of our package. So this is random place, and the idea is that I want to pull a random location from the countries view in the database. So I've got this query, select star from countries view, and it has order by random fetch first row. So it just gives me a random row in the data set. And then what this piece is doing is it's returning, it's a JSON object with the result. What it has right now is it opens the object, it puts success true, and closes the object. What I really want to do is return the content of the location I selected here. And this is where I want to introduce the concept of multi-cursor, because as you're becoming really efficient with multi-cursor, you'll see that your productivity will skyrocket. So one of the keys that I like to do is Option Shift down, and that copies the lines right here. So let's return the data that we need for our application, which is the country name, the city name, and the population of the data set. Now I'm going to use Command Option Up to add more cursors. Actually, before I do that, let's complete the select statement. So I'm going to be pulling the name from the table, the capital, and the population. Now, this is where multi-cursor becomes interesting, is because I can start adding cursors to my editor. So I go up, up, and then I can select multiple selections. So then I copy this. And as I go to the next line and I want to select that into other, oh, why did it get removed? Hold on. Okay. And as I go to insert the into variables, I can add the 3 keywords at the same time, and then add some more cursors, do L underscore, and then that really becomes the final selection. So I could use those 3 variables, go up, 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 right here, select all of those. Now this becomes my variables, and this should actually match the table name. So ABA countries V dot, and then the name of the column, and then I can go and reference the type. So very efficiently, I'm able to modify multiple lines at a time, because oftentimes you're doing the same thing on every line. So instead of copy, paste, you can multitask and do it all at the same time. So now again, I'll go and output the data in my JSON object. So I copy those lines. I go here, I can edit all of them at the same time. I don't need the L here. And then there we go. So let's compile that package to the database. I connect, I run. So what's the problem now? I get IntelliSense from Oracle. Oh, I missed a comma. So again, I could use multi-cursors. I would do this and this, 2 commas at a time. I run again, and that should be good. Okay. So let's go back to Apex. And now from our Ajax process, we want to pull, we want to fetch the data from Ajax, and we want to affect the items on the page. So going to our JavaScript function again, now we'll set the display items. So that would be, let me just copy paste this from somewhere else so that it's faster. So I'll be putting the value from the result in country name, capital name, population. And just as a little bonus here, I'm going to add something else, which is I'm going to be pulling a random picture from Unsplash that matches the city name. So we'll get a nice random picture that tells us the location we're going to take our trip to. Okay, let's save this and see the results. Okay, so I've got my Ajax callback, I've got my JavaScript and the dynamic action. Now, if I press I'm feeling lucky, I should be getting a random city and country. I see the population, and there's also random pictures. So it's looking beautiful. Maybe I want to go somewhere else. Podgorica, maybe somewhere else. So you get the picture. Now, what I think would be pretty cool here is if we were able to, the next step is to add a keyboard shortcut on this page, to actually be able to trigger this process, but not from the button, but a keyboard shortcut. So that's actually pretty easy with one of the Apex JavaScript APIs, the apex.actions API. Let's go back to our page property. And on page load, we're going to be adding a new action. And this action is going to be called feeling lucky. So I'm using the apex.actions.add API. And what this is doing is we give it a name and we give it the action. And the action will actually be the name of our function. So the function was feeling lucky. And then from this action, I'm going to attach a shortcut to that action. So the shortcut is Control-L, and that will invoke the feeling lucky action. So let's save this thing and go back to our page. And now I'm going to leave my cursor right here in the middle and go and type Control-L. And this actually triggers the process. So I've got 2 ways of triggering my Ajax now. I've got the shortcut and the button. Okay. So that's pretty good. And the last tip that I want to talk about is as we're doing web development, it happens very often that we need to test those applications on many different devices. And iOS is a very popular platform. I don't know the numbers, but in the US, it's something over 50% that people have iPhones. So it is imperative that web developers test those web applications on iPhone and iPad and all the iDevices. Not everybody has all the devices, but there's a very easy way to simulate an iDevice. And that is by going to Xcode on a Mac. If you go to Xcode, you'll get access to the preferences. And in the preferences under components, you can actually download the simulators for all the iOS versions. So what I like to do is download the latest version of all major versions. So I've got 14.5, 15.4, 13.7. So I'm able to test all those versions very easily. And then from Xcode, if you go to Open Developer Tools and Simulator, then you get an actual phone simulator right from your Mac, which is pretty cool. So this is running the iPhone 13 Pro on iOS 15.4, the latest one. And from here, you can copy this link, go to the simulator, open Safari, and just paste this in. And then you'll get access to the application. You can test it. So it still works from here. I could be going to Rome. There's plenty of tests you can do, such as moving the phone to landscape. But most importantly, you get access to all those iOS devices. If you want to test it on something else than iPhone 13, just open File, open Simulator, look at the version you want to test, and you can open it in iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, pretty much all of those devices. And that's all for my tips today. Thanks, everyone. And back to you, Jason.
Yeah, that's amazing, Vincent. Thank you so much for your detail. We have one question I'd like you to answer live if you can. The whole shortcut thing, does it overwrite existing shortcuts like browser shortcuts or operating system shortcuts?
That's a good question. And actually my recommendation would be to be very careful not to override native shortcuts. You probably want to find shortcuts that don't exist, like Command S for saving is probably not a good idea because you're going against other systems. And also for accessibility purposes, you want to be very mindful of the shortcuts you choose.
Well, that's great. Really appreciate your time. And again, your depth of all the details there, that your app was great. What were you planning to do with the book it button?
I guess it just had to be there. Otherwise, it didn't really make sense for the app. It's an empty button right now. It does.
All right. No, just curious. Just curious. Very cool. But yeah, the whole multi-cursor thing, I thought you were going to talk about some new PL SQL thing or database thing. I had no idea you were literally going to be talking about multi-cursors and VS Code when we talked about this before. So that was awesome. And
one thing I didn't mention about multi-cursors is that this is also possible in the Monaco editor in Apex. So as you're editing JavaScript, PL SQL, or even any text editor in Apex, you have access to multi-cursors. All those shortcuts work as well. So it's not limited to VS Code.
Gotcha. I need to definitely practice more with that. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. So moving on from there, next slide. Just a shout out for the Ideas app. We have apex.oracle.com/ideas. I'm active on Twitter, having conversations with various members of the community. The whole concept behind the Ideas app is to basically give you guys an opportunity, all of you, men and women, whatever, everybody that's out there using Apex. If you have something in mind that you'd like Apex to do, post a submission, get something out there. Let's talk about it. Let's see if it makes sense. Let's see if it's possible. I mean, some things are pretty lofty, may not ever happen, but maybe it will. And maybe your ideas might make it into the next or future release of Apex. It's just something I'm very passionate about. I've worked very hard on this particular application, and we just pushed a new update last night. There are a few other bug fixes going out to that today. I got to admit, the whole QA aspect of application development has always been a challenge. As you add new features and play with new stuff that's supported by the platform like Apex, it does require a lot of effort and time to make sure that you thought of all the different scenarios and so forth. So in any case, I just want to make sure that you all knew about that. Please visit that page, take a look at it. It now supports read-only access. You don't have to SSO or sign into it every time you look at it. I was up late last night on my phone watching a hockey game, and I went through a bunch of ideas and was leaving comments and changing the statuses of everything. It works great on the phone. There is room for improvement. I get it. So please don't blow me up on Twitter, but we're working hard to make things even better with every release of Apex, with every app that we make available to the community to use. The community is extremely important to us. So from there, if there aren't any other questions, I think we've answered everything pretty good live and everything in the Q&A. Thank you everyone for making a point of using the Q&A feature. It just helps us keep track of everything and give everyone an opportunity to see your question and answer in context. So that pretty much brings us to a conclusion of today's Apex office hours. Happy St. Patrick's Day. If you drink green beer like I do, maybe that'll happen later at happy hour, maybe not. But we're looking forward to the next opportunity to spend time with you. And please reach out through all the different channels. We're on social media and we love what we do. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.